All right. Good morning, everyone. I know that everyone's kind of discussing the audio. Hopefully things are better. I think that Tiffany was trying to play some music for you guys since there was no audio. We had not started yet. Welcome to Stress Express using applied behavior analysis to address staff burnout. Tiffany Hotwagner and Rachel Livingston will be presenting today. My name is Danielle Daly. I'm the Professional Development Coordinator here with the Illinois Crisis Prevention Network. I'm just going to go over a few housekeeping things, and then they will go ahead and get started. We will run from 10 a.m. to about 11:45 this morning. Everyone's muted. Your cameras are disabled. Please visit our website, icpn.org. You can view our upcoming trainings, as well as review some past ones. It'll link you to our YouTube site. We have a couple coming up that are on the website. We have obsessive compulsive disorder on August 16th, and then utilizing acceptance and commitment therapy to address staff trauma and burnout on August 30th. So please be sure to check those out and get registered for those. For continuing education certificates, please give me about 14 days to get those out to everyone. I think there's a lot of people that are registered to attend today, so it takes a little bit of time to get those all individually sent. So please give me about 14 days. They will come to the email address that you registered with. If you don't receive those within that 14-day time period, after that 14-day time period, please reach out to me. I will put my email address into the chat box, but it is ddaily@hope.us. If you are a board certified behavior analyst or a board certified assistant behavior analyst, please go ahead and send me a quick email with your certification number. I will be sending you an evaluation to be completed in order to receive your continuing education certificate. But I will need to know who is a board certified behavior analyst or a board certified assistant behavior analyst in order to send you that evaluation. Everyone else, there will be a survey that pops up at the end of Zoom. And then you'll receive your continuing education certificate. I will put information into the chat box again, just to repeat what I just said now and again at the end of the webinar. I think that's all I have. Tiffany and Rachel, if you want to go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Really quick, I just want to make sure my audio is okay. Can most of you hear me all right? I have kind of choppy service back here. Okay, awesome. So welcome to our training today. It's called Stress Express, using applied behavior analysis to address staff burnout. As you can kind of see, our theme today is Christmas in July. So we've got our Polar Express train here, but it's on the beach. And part of the reason that we wanted to do a Christmas in July training is because I get all the warm and fuzzies around the holiday season. So I thought that it would be kind of a fun way to address burnout among staff. And since Rachel and I are dressed kind of Christmassy holiday spirit today, we did want to encourage participation in that as well. So As you might have seen in our description that was sent out when you signed up for this webinar, we asked that all of our participants dress in some sort of holiday apparel. So if you are dressed up with us, if you could just take like a quick selfie, oh, you can't see my phone, with us like in the background so that we can see that you are dressed for our fun theme today, and then send that on to Danielle at DDAILEY@hope.us. She'll put that in the chat for you guys, for a chance to win a gift card. So if you want a gift card, send that fun selfie. All right. So we will get going here. I don't know why it's not going to the next slide. There we go. All right, so today we are going to talk about burnout among staff. We're going to be focusing on more of like the direct care staff. I know there's definitely burnout with families. So I do challenge my coworkers, the rest of ICPN, to come up with a fun training to help all of us, deal with some of that burnout that our families are dealing with. But this is going to be focusing on helping our staff today. So we're going to look at burnout and how we're going to define it. And then we're going to look at the Maslach burnout inventory. There are some other ways to measure our staff burnout, but I really wanted to focus on this one today because it is geared towards staff in our field. And then we're going to talk about ruling out medical and providing resources to staff. Then we'll move on, and Rachel's going to talk about her social work professional side with motivational interviewing, and then the different aspects of that. And then we'll take a quick break. And then I will be talking about behavior skills training, and then we'll move on to talk about teamwork and work atmosphere. And then we'll discuss progress monitoring and where to go from there. And then we may or may not have a fun quiz at the end, depending on timing. And then if you guys have any questions, we'll see how much time we have left for that. So let's jump on in. I did want to start out with a fun video. Before I start the video, I just wanted to say that when I was working on developing this training, I was actually watching A Year Without Santa Claus. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this movie, but it's the one with the heat miser, and I think his brother is the cold miser. The heat miser is my favorite, so I know his name, but the Miser brothers. So this is the first scene of that movie, and I really felt like it hit home with this training and addressing burnout and talking about burnout. If you guys are familiar with this movie, Santa decides to take the year off. And this is the first scene, and I thought that it was really great. So I will get this clip rolling for us. Is it working? My internet is so slow. There we go. Oops. Sorry, guys.
Have you been told? Did you ever hear of the curious, furious, fidgety year when Santa Claus unhitched his sleigh and vowed he was taking a holiday? How do I know so much about Santa? Well, I'm Mrs. Claus. It was long ago, before you were living. Not yet Christmas, but past Thanksgiving, though I can't give you the very date. Santa got up that morning late, pulled on one boot and then its twin, ruffled the whiskers on his chin, and sat back down on the side of the bed.
Great North Star, but I'm tired.
He said.
Painting wagons red and bright, sharpening ice skates half the night, wrapping presents in ribbons and gauze has worn me weary.
Said Santa Claus.
Crick in my back, cold in my nose, aches in my fingers and all 10 toes, and a sort of kind of kink inside whenever I think of that Christmas ride.
Now, Santa, you just rest yourself a bit longer. I've already sent for the doctor. We'll have you back on your feet in no time.
No wonder you got the shiver and shakes. Probably never got over the case of near pneumonia you picked up last year gallivanting around the world in your open sleigh. And for what? Just to deliver presents to a bunch of folks who don't give a hoot in the first place.
But,
Now, Doctor, it's not just presents, and you know it. What about all that Christmas spirit and goodwill?
If you had any sense, you'd give it up as a bad job and stay home in bed this year.
Oh, come now. If Santa stayed home, why, there'd be no Christmas.
Who cares? Nobody cares about Christmas anymore.
they don't?
Of course not. Wouldn't surprise me none.
All right. I don't want to, it's kind of a long video, but so as you can see there, Santa is obviously dealing with some burnout. I know I could watch Christmas movies all year, Janice too. So Santa's dealing with some burnout, and kind of like we were talking about in that outline there, we're gonna discuss like ruling out medical. So they looked into the doctor to help Santa, and obviously the doctor was not very helpful. He was fairly negative, and kind of encouraging Santa to just give up the whole shebang. So I don't know about you, but I've definitely worked with some staff members that are just very negative. They kind of pull everyone down. It kind of reminded me of the doctor a little bit. So I thought this was a really great clip to kind of start the training off, because Santa is obviously burnt out. He's got a lot of work to do. He works all year round just to get ready for one day. And he's talking about how there's no more Christmas spirit left. So hopefully we'll get some spirit up today, and we'll continue on and talk about our burnout.
If nobody even believes.
Here we go. All right, so we wanted to do a quick poll and have you guys participate. If you could let us know in a word or two what burnout means to you. So you're going to text Anna Vivanti 458 to 22333. And then you'll send what word burnout kind of screams to you. All right, I've got exhaustion. Hearing. So up at the top, I don't know if you guys can see it, you'll text ANNAVVANTI 458 to the number 22333. So it looks like a lot of people have put exhaustion and fatigue. Physical, defeated, overwhelmed, mental, professional apathy, anxiety, tired, unhappy, defeated, yeah, unmotivated. Awesome. Thank you guys for sending those in. It looks like the biggest thing that everyone is all kind of agreeing on is exhaustion, right? When you're feeling burnt out, you're just kind of exhausted, you're done. All right. Thanks, guys. Paralysis. I love that one. And then just a quick, okay. So what is burnout? This is just one of the many definitions that are out there. The grandmother of burnout, if you kind of look at some of the research that's out there, is Christina Maslock. And we'll be talking a little bit more about her and what she's done in the whole atmosphere of like burnout. But so usually when you find a definition of burnout, it'll say most likely work-related stress syndrome, though obviously you can be burnt out, from your family environment or friend environments, things like that. But today we're going to focus on that work-related stress syndrome portrayed by dimensions of emotional exhaustion, personal accomplishment, and depersonalization. So we're really going to focus on those three components today, which kind of goes back to Christina Maslach. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be work related, but that's just what we're going to kind of talk about today. So before we got really into our discussion of burnout, Rachel and I wanted to kind of share with you guys our experiences, just because we felt like being, completely upfront and honest with everyone kind of breaks down some of, I guess, like the walls of talking about burnout. Like you see a lot of these burnout workshops, right? Where you talk about burnout, but you don't actually apply what you learn about burnout, or you don't actually like go back to your agency and work on helping each other suffering with burnout. So we really just wanted to kind of be an open book with you guys and talk about our own experiences, and hope that, you guys can relate to some of our experiences and know that it's not just you, or it's not just one staff. It's definitely a spectrum that we deal with burnout, and it can kind of come and go. So we'll talk about that more. But my personal experience with burnout, I'm a new mom, and I'm definitely feeling burnt out these days, especially because I'm back at work working full time, and then I go home and I've got this baby that's on the verge of being a toddler, and he's getting more and more mobile. He's getting into things, and I can't just relax when I get home. I have to be on it as soon as I pick him up from daycare. He's refusing to get into the car now, in the car seat. So that takes like 10 minutes of, all of that emotion, and trying to like stay calm and get him into the car and be funny and goofy with him, even though I'm frustrated inside. And honestly, my biggest burnout right now is washing bottles. I am so sick of washing bottles. So almost every night I kind of like put all the bottles there, and I ask my husband, like, can you just do the bottles tonight? Like, it's the one thing that just throws me over. Like for some reason, just the bottles are the last straw for me. So I find ways to trade off, getting out of doing the bottles. Like, I need a break on washing bottles. So can you just wash the bottles? I'll do the dishes. I'll do this. I'll do that instead. So that is the one thing where I can kind of like take a break from right now, but it comes and goes. There's different things that I feel burnt out on, depending on the task that I'm just, it's that monotonous, gross washing bottles. I don't know what it is. Another thing for me was COVID. I was really stressed out during COVID. I already have anxiety. And then when COVID came, it kind of turned our world upside down. And I just could not get it together. Like the unpredictability and having to be flexible in literally every aspect of my life was so difficult, because part of my anxiety is like, I need to control things, and having no control over what was happening next was so difficult for me. I was losing sleep. I couldn't get to sleep at night at all. I had to go on sleep medication just to get to sleep. And I took quite a few personal days during COVID because I was just exhausted. Like, I was in my head so much about what I had to do and how I had to cope with things, that I just needed to take the time to catch up on rest. And it was just a really difficult time for me. Thankfully, when things kind of normalized a bit, and I learned to cope a little bit better, I didn't need to seek out as much therapy. I don't need to be on sleep meds anymore. But during that time, I had to seek out those extra ways to help myself just get through it. And I think that takes some sort of like self-awareness too, making sure you're checking in with yourself when you're feeling burnt out, of like, okay, let's take a step back. How can I help myself get through this tough moment? I also was a Q for an ICFDD right out of college. That was my first like big girl job. And I was working like 24 hours, it seemed like. I was filling in for third shifts. I was filling in for second shifts. My phone was constantly going off. I had a straight up aversion to my phone. And to this day, I am not very attached to my phone. I think probably because of that still. But it was like, even if my friends or my mom called, I could not, I like had this guttural like feeling that just took hold of me when my phone rang, because it would stress me out so much of like, what's going to happen next? Who do I have to fill in for? How many more hours of sleep do I have to lose? So with that job, I quit. I left that job. I took a pay cut. I just could not do it anymore for my mental and physical health. I loved my clients. I cried. I would cry in interviews, like job interviews, because it broke my heart to have to leave those clients, but I just couldn't do it anymore. So just taking a break and looking at what you're able to do to get yourself back in line and help yourself move forward. Like it says there, quitting a job is not a failure. Sometimes it just is not the right fit for you. Sometimes it's just too much for you, and that's okay. But taking a look at that and making sure, you know, you're taking care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And I know Rachel's got her own experience that she wanted to share as well.
Hi, everybody. So a little bit about me. I was actually a DSP in Dubuque, Iowa, in a behavioral home for 2 years. And I also was working at a domestic violence shelter at the same time. So if you can imagine, they were very stressful jobs. And I also was attending graduate school full-time while working these 2 jobs. So not only were the jobs pretty stressful, but also graduate school is pretty pricey. So also that financial aspect came into play. So a lot of the times I would have my classes in the morning, and then I would work second shift, so late hours. And then I had, you know, many late nights trying to write papers. So I had very little sleep during this time. And working as a DSP, so I did experience that that burnout, because I worked so many hours to ensure that financial security. And then on top of not only the job itself, I had some personal life issues that kind of contribute to that burnout too. So things that really helped me through my burnout was when upper management really showed appreciation towards me. They listened to me and I felt heard by them. Also, I felt comfortable and safe talking with them about issues or concerns that I had. Another thing that my agency did, they did offer some scholarship opportunities. And I was actually very lucky enough to receive a check for $1,000. So I put that towards my tuition, and that was really, really helpful for me. They also gave some incentives for working more hours. So they would give more money if you picked up hours or something like that. So there was a lot of different incentives that they would offer if you did pick up more hours. But then there was also a lot of things that still stressed me out. So the pressure, they would pressure me to work hours because we were short staffed. So I would a lot of times be asked to work hours, and maybe I needed to get a paper done, but then also they were offering an incentive. So then I was like, what do I choose, the money or trying to get the paper done? So it was kind of a battle between that. And then also we were typically always understaffed. This could be pretty stressful because, you know, you're coming from classes, you're expecting this, and then you're realizing that there's one less staff that's got to be there. So typically the clients that we worked with, they were funded for one-on-one care or one-on-one support, but a lot of times you were having 2 behavioral clients in your shift, so double the work. So that could be pretty stressful for me. And then when management would really expect me to do things that they want to actually do. So in one situation I had, we DSPs were required to take behavioral clients to family events. And in this situation, I had a client that he was known to be very aggressive after leaving those family events. And this kind of just put us me and another DSP has risk of injury. And then also being in the car with him being aggressive, it kind of put everybody at risk. So I think it's just really important to understand the risk and thinking, would you be willing to do the same as you're expecting your DSPs to do? So that's just a little bit of my experience. And then Tiffany.
Oh, sorry, guys. I was just thinking too, I forgot to introduce ourselves. I'm Tiffany Hotwagner. I'm a BCBA with the Illinois Crisis Prevention Network in the Rockford area. And then Rachel is a LSW with our team as well. So that's out of the way now. Sorry, Rachel.
That's okay.
All right. Let me just, for some reason, I'm really bad at clicking on the next slide. Okay. So what does burnout look like? Kind of like what we were talking about. I know these like little pictures on here are a little difficult to see, but so some of the symptoms of burnout can look like, little to no motivation, not being able to get work done. I think I'm struggling with that a little bit lately. Sick baby, having to take more time off. I took a personal day last week because I just needed time to like not do anything for a couple of hours. So I laid out in the sun with my 2 dogs and just relaxed and not have to worry about what my little one is doing. So little to no motivation. Insomnia, that's something that I was really struggling with, not being able to sleep, feeling emotionally overwhelmed, easily triggered. I've definitely walked into like a Scylla before quite a few times, and there's, a staff that's probably burnt out, and I'll ask a simple question and it's like they're angry immediately. They, give me like a quick like answer, and it's like, whoa, oh my gosh, like I'm so sorry. Like I didn't mean to make this interaction negative for you. It's just me trying to get information. But because that staff is burnt out, they're just like, and super triggered very easily. So just because I'm asking about a behavior that might have triggered them because it's a stressful thing for them to deal with. Exhaustion. That's something that everyone kind of identified as something relating to burnout, and that could be physical. Your whole body could hurt. I was at a therapeutic school and a bunch of the paras were talking about how they get massages and they go to the chiropractor on a regular basis because of the job. And how kind of physically taxing it can be at times, running after kids and having to, kind of put them in holds of sorts sometimes. That can be just really difficult. Emotional exhaustion. Rachel and I work for the Illinois Crisis Prevention Network. So we see a lot of really difficult cases come through, and sometimes it's just hard. I know I talked about being a new mom, but it's given me a whole new perspective. So sometimes when I see a really tough situation, especially with a kid, I go home and I'm like upset about it. And just having to learn to like kind of turn that off and be a little bit more of a neutral, I guess, affect for those situations. Anxiety, definitely a big one. I think everyone in our office suffers with anxiety. Focusing on the negative. Kind of like the doctor in that clip that we showed in the beginning. He's focusing on the negative. He's a negative Nancy. Maybe he's burnt out. Maybe he needs to take a break from being a doctor for a little bit, go on a vacation or something. Pushing others away. I know my husband definitely comes home sometimes and he's burnt out. I know that he's burnt out at his job. He's filling in for a really difficult position right now for these 3 months. And he comes home and he's just, and he obviously needs some space and time. So that's definitely a big one. Feeling unfulfilled. Maybe your job just is not making you happy anymore and you're unfulfilled. And that's kind of a time to look within and decide, what are you going to go from here, or where are you going to go from here? Feeling disconnected, reactions rather than responses. And with our, direct care staff, that can be very dangerous. When a direct care staff is burnt out and they react rather than think about how they need to respond and respond appropriately, they can hurt themselves, they can hurt others, they can, say things that are inappropriate. I recently had a case where the client was doing something they probably weren't supposed to be doing, and the staff responded very negatively and inappropriately, and they ended up needing to be removed from that home. So it's really unfortunate sometimes if we can't come in and intervene and help our staff so they're not burnt out and reacting inappropriately. Feeling driven by obligation rather than values. Rachel was talking about how she felt pressured to show up to work instead of wanting to show up to work, having to fill in those extra hours instead of wanting to fill in those extra hours. Irrationally angry, kind of like what I was talking about before, just easily triggered, being angry just immediately instead of, thinking about your feelings and reacting appropriately. Having a hard time setting or maintaining boundaries. That's another one. You kind of end up living your work life instead of living your life and working. So those are just some symptoms. I just can't click on the next slide for some reason. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the effects of burnout, what is actually found in the literature to be real things that people struggle with. So those were just symptoms. These are what's actually happening, and the symptoms are just what we kind of see. You've got the decreased individual, team, and organizational performance. So maybe your staff just aren't performing. Maybe they're just chilling because they just are too overwhelmed by the workload or behaviors. This includes inhibited creativity. They're not, doing fun crafts or things with the clients. They're not coming up with fun things to do with them. Decreased innovation and workplace mistakes and accidents, as well as injuries. So just like I was talking about before, when we react instead of respond how we're trained to respond, it increases those mistakes, it increases accidents, it increases injuries. Sometimes the staff might have to restrain an individual, and maybe they restrain the individual in an incorrect manner. I remember in the first couple of years that I was on this job, I was observing a client that needed to be restrained, and the staff pulled their hair in the middle of the restraint, and I had to report it because you can't pull hair in a restraint, right? So when staff are burnt out, they're going to make more mistakes. We're going to see more of those things, and sometimes it costs us our jobs. So this is a really serious thing that is affecting our staff. It's affecting us. And part of the reason we wanted to do this was so that we could help each other address this and talk about it, and really push each other to make those changes in our lives, in our work lives. You've got higher absenteeism and turnover. I know that when I first started this job, I was super motivated. I wasn't quite aware of all the negative stuff going on. I was kind of bright-eyed about everything. And I was coming in at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I am not a morning person. So everyone here knows at this point, I've kind of chilled out a little bit and I come in a little bit later. But on days when I'm feeling really burnt out, I'll be like, I need a day. I need to take the day. I can't do it today. And I know you probably see that with your staff as well. 79% of our staff are more likely to develop coronary heart disease. That's crazy and it's scary. Chronic health impairments and more physiological symptoms of acute stress. Stress is it's very serious. It takes a very serious toll on our bodies. So we need to really take care of ourselves and help our staff really build that self-awareness as well. Depression and negative psychological health. 37% more likely to be hospitalized for mental disorders, more likely to be tense, anxious, upset, and angry at home. I know some days when I've had a really rough day at the office, I'm dealing with really, tough cases. I come home and I'm like, right? And my husband does too. They withdraw from their families and they have fewer friends. Maybe you don't even want to be around people. I know I'm an introvert, so spending tons of time around other people and being, stressed out around those people because we're dealing with very stressful situations. I just want to do nothing. I want to be around no one. And that can be an effective burnout as well. So moving on. How does burnout even happen? So burnout from, all the articles we were reading doesn't just happen overnight, right? I know if you've especially experienced burnout, you're probably familiar with the process. You start all excited and happy and ready to go, ready to learn, ready to, put in all of your effort. And then over time, you're like, whoa, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. I'm really tired. I'm exhausted. I'm stressed out. And over time, it's going to happen gradually. And eventually, you're going to feel burnt out. It's a prolonged response to chronic job stressors. So if your job is just stressful all the time, you have no resources, you're going to be burnt out, right? If it's just kind of stress here and there, you're probably not going to come into contact with that burnout feeling as much, but it definitely happens over time. So as you can see here on the right, this is just a really cool visual I found in one of the articles that I was reading by Gabriel and I'm not going to say this name right, Aguinas maybe. So they reference this job demands resources model. So as you can see here, the higher the job resources are for staff and the lower the job demands, you're going to see more engagement. But when you've got lower resources for staff and higher demands, they're going to be burnt out over time. So just kind of looking at my notes here, job demands and resources are two sets of working conditions that characterize all jobs, irrespective of industry and occupation. So this can happen in any job, basically, right? If no one's helping you get your job done or telling you how to do it or providing you with knowledge and resources to get the job done, and it's really hard stuff to do, you're going to be like, this is terrible. Why do I want to continue to do it? Job demands are physical, there are psychological, social, organizational aspects of the job that require sustained physical, cognitive, or emotional effort or skills, such as unfavorable physical environments, emotionally draining interactions, or fast-paced high work. So a really tough job, emotionally, physically. And then job resources are physical, psychological, social, organizational aspects of the job that help employees deal with stressful situations. It bolsters motivation. It stimulates personal growth and development. And these are, or examples of these are constructive feedback, pay security, autonomy, task variety, and coworker support. So building that environment that really provides extra support for our staff, as well as us. All right, so the Maslow burnout inventory. Back in the day, 1981, Christina Maslow and Susan E. Jackson created a psychological assessment instrument comprising of 22 symptom items pertaining to occupational burnout. So they really focused on the healthcare field. So that's why I really wanted to focus on the MBI, because we are kind of in the healthcare field and we, are caring for people on a regular basis, right? And there's 3 sections to this assessment tool. It looks at emotional exhaustion, and then it looks at depersonalization as well as personal accomplishment. So emotional exhaustion is that first section in this assessment tool, and it describes feeling of being emotionally overextended and exhausted by one's work. So it's going to ask questions about, you feeling like you can't get your work done and feeling exhausted. In this section, the higher the score, the more the burnout your staff is feeling. So if they have a really high score, they're going to be more burnt out in this section. Then you've got the second section of the MBI, which is depersonalization, and that describes an unfeeling and impersonal response towards recipients of one's care or service. So you start to feel like the people that you care for are more like objects, kind of. And the higher the score in this section, the more burnout your staff is feeling. The last section is personal accomplishment, which describes feelings of competence and successful achievement in your work with people. And then this one is the lower the score, the higher the burnout. So you're feeling like you have less personal accomplishment, which means that you're more burnt out in this section. And then we'll kind of show you what the tool looks like. So if you are interested in using this tool with your staff, which I highly recommend, just so you can kind of see where your staff are at. Rachel and I actually took this ourselves. We were discussing it last night. You can kind of just go online and find it. I Googled it and I was able to find it. So this is just one version of it. I think there's slightly different versions of it out there, but there's also plenty of other tools as well if you find them. So yeah, I just Googled this. This is what it looks like. So the first section is that, sorry, let me make sure I get it right. Is that emotional exhaustion section. Like it says there, I feel emotionally drained at work, right? And then you're going to, it's got like a scale. So you'll say like 0 is never, and then 6 is every day. And it kind of goes like once a month, a couple times a week. That second section is the depersonalization section there. And then the third section, section C, is personal accomplishment. So like I said, Rachel and I did this last night, and I'll share our scores with you guys, or at least like what section we put it in. But so once you give this to staff, if you have them do it, you can either score it yourself, you can have staff score it so they know where they're at as well, which I do recommend just because it gives them more of that awareness. And you can always help them score it or share the results with them after you score it, but just kind of reviewing what that means. So when Rachel and I did it, you know, like I said earlier, we do deal with really stressful, high kind of crisis situations. So please keep that in mind. Don't judge us. But that's part of, you know, why I wanted to share this, because it's real. It happens to everyone. It can happen to you. It can happen to your mom. So I got, let me look here in my notes. I was low level in the first section of burnout. And emotional exhaustion. I had a high level in depersonalization, which I felt kind of ashamed about. But I know that this is, I mean, we're in the human service field. It's hard. It's hard sometimes. And then I got moderate level in the personal accomplishment. Rachel got moderate in that first section. She got high level in the second section, and she got moderate in the third section. So we're both feeling pretty burnt out. And I feel like, I'm pretty sure if we handed this assessment tool to anyone else in our office, we would probably all get similar scores at the end. So this is just kind of something that's really interesting to take yourself to see where you're at and kind of look at how you can help yourself move forward or what you need to maybe work on. And this is definitely a great tool to kind of collect baseline data for our staff. So that we can start our process of helping our staff feel better about their work. So in applied behavior analysis, we always want to rule out medical first, right? Because medical issues can definitely be the root cause of a lot of behaviors. So that's always our first go-to before we want to implement any behavioral programming. And obviously, as like supervisors, we can't just be like, hey, go to the doctor, right? You're going to get in trouble with HR probably. So we really just want to encourage a really healthy environment, at least, and kind of make healthcare and, you know, mental health care accessible to our staff and encourage them to participate in, you know, healthy challenges or competitions. I know our, group just got together and played basketball with another agency. That's a fun way to be competitive and healthy at the same time. A lot of people in our office also like share food with each other. Like we have a couple of people that prepare like really healthy meals for each other. And that's really cool too. So just encouraging that kind of thing. We also have something that's really cool. I appreciated it when I was on our insurance. If you go get your annual physical and you provide proof to HR that you had your physical, they actually give you a discount on your health insurance. So that's something that, you can go to HR and say, like, is that a possibility? Can we do that? I don't know how difficult that is to get, but I know I really appreciate a discount when I can get one. And then obviously, when you're going and getting their annual physicals, that's a great way to be proactive in your health and to even save your life. The doctor might find something that's kind of scary that can help you. And then just promoting overall health. So something that I was kind of thinking that is helpful too, of like, sometimes you don't even know who your providers are in your insurance. So even just researching that for staff, like where can you find who is covered under our insurance? These are some of the providers in our area that are covered. Just kind of promoting a healthy workplace for everybody, making it fun, making it part of, the culture. So then kind of going back to that resource and workload model, we want to make sure that we're providing resources to our staff. So this list is something that Gabriel and Aquinas had offered up in their article. I added a couple of things in here as well, but there's plenty of other resources out there if you kind of look further into this. But see, these are some of the ones that I felt were fairly easy to kind of implement. So how do we increase resources? What resources do we increase or provide to our DSPs? Some examples can start out with, mindfulness meditation groups. And this is something that we can even do like with our clients and the people that we support, starting off a shift, have your staff do a mindfulness meditation with everyone in the home, just to kind of calm everyone and increase those calming skills. We also want to increase skill and task variety so that the job isn't redundant for staff. Like I said, I really struggle with washing bottles for some reason, and I think it's because it's so redundant and I have to wash so many bottles every single day. So how can we reduce the redundancy and kind of mix that up? Sometimes I get different smelling soaps. Sometimes I wash bottles differently. Sometimes I have my husband wash the bottles. Sometimes I try out new bottle brushes. I try all sorts of things to make it less aversive for myself. We can also provide more opportunities for development. We want to make sure that there's a little bit of room for growth in some capacity, right? If your job has no room for growth, then why try to learn anything new or do any better? We can offer more trainings or incentives for attending trainings. You can have them watch these videos. We have continuing education that we're required to complete. So why don't we require that of the people providing direct care to those that we serve, right? Supervisor support is probably my favorite one on here. When I was a Q, I was expected to work at least every shift, at least twice a month and more, because my office was actually in the home where everyone lived and worked. So I was there all the time. Recently, I was observing at Asilla, and the supervisor at this specific place was sitting on the couch watching TV with their staff. What does that say to the staff? What does that say to the people that we serve, right? The supervisor is acting this way. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up, having the supervisor really in there, engaging with the clients, modeling the behavior, leading by example. It's really important. And I know that we have a lot of paperwork, we have a lot of other responsibilities, but if we put that proactive effort in, then we don't necessarily have to put in as much effort later when, things arise, because things probably won't arise because we know what's happening beforehand. So yeah, if we can spend that extra time up front with our staff and clients, we'll know the needs that are there and how we can provide help to everyone ahead of time. Not being around can send a message of not caring to staff, no matter how busy we are. This kind of connects with involving staff in the conversation. We can't just be pencil pushers and expect staff to agree with, buy into and implement what we want done, especially if we aren't around to know what's needed. We can also provide more specific training so that staff feel confident in how they're implementing programs. And lastly, we'll be focusing on today our motivational interviewing and behavior skills training. There's many more resources, like I said before, to provide staff, but these are just some of the main ones that I wanted to point out. And with that said, let's go into our motivational interviewing approach.
Hello, so I wanted to talk about motivational interview in social work practice. So as social workers, we use motivational interviewing with people who are resistant to change, uncertain or doubtful about an issue, or struggle with that low confidence. So motivational interviewing is an effective way to talk with people about change. So an example of this can be as simple as not showing up to an appointment. So I actually did my internship in a behavioral health setting, and we did provide therapy and psychiatric services. So the agency that I was interning at, we were seeing a trend of no-shows, so people not showing up to their appointments. So why was this an issue? Well, this was an issue because this was not only directing that individual because their mental health needs were not being managed, but also it was affecting the mental health community as well, because mental health wasn't being effectively addressed, and there's limited services for mental health, and then people were having to be waitlisted. So my supervisor at my intern wanted a way to address this problem. So he chose motivational interviewing to help change this behavior within clients. So part of my role as an intern was to have those motivational interview sessions with those clients that were showing that trend of not showing up to their appointments. And in many of those sessions, we would address their importance of mental health. They're not able to receive those medications if they're not showing up to those appointments. And also talking about reaching to the point of crises because they're not addressing their mental health needs. So after doing these motivational interviewing sessions with these clients, we did start to see a trend in clients attending more appointments and then prioritizing their mental health. So, and seeing that as an important thing. Some other examples that you can use motivational interviewing to address is addiction, can be physical health. So maybe addressing somebody that smokes, or mental health issues as well, like anxiety. So the goal that you are working on can vary on that individual specific criteria of what you must work. There's no specific criteria on what you must work on. So they want to change something, whether that's a negative behavior, whether maybe it's smoking, whatever. There's no specific criteria of what you have to work on. So DSPs that are burnout may show that pushback against that change or instruction. So some examples are, they have a negative mindset. They might be stuck in their old ways and they might be working too many hours. So they have that poor work-life balance. So motivational interviewing can be a method to help reach DSPs that are experiencing that burnout. So the process of motivational interviewing can lead to that mindset of growth and acceptance. And also remembering that burnout is not only related to job and your career, right? We have personal life things that contribute to our burnout. So addressing both of those aspects in motivational interviewing can really be helpful to develop that positive change. So examples can be some like a single mother and a father that is overworked, or a DSP that has their family has a lot of they have a family member that has a lot of mental health issues or health issues, and then everything's going wrong. So they just have a negative mindset. So they bring that to the work atmosphere. So I think it's really important for us to realize that our DSP success leads to our client success. So if DSPs are burnt out, they're going to be less successful in their job, and that's going to directly affect our clients. So I think that's really important to remember. So moving forward, we have motivational interviewing has 4 processes. So that's engaging, focusing, evoking, and planning. So engaging. So this first process is known as this high process. So you want to start building that working relationship with that DSP. And the idea of this is develop rapport, reduce that resistance and defensiveness, resolving some of that ambivalence about your role. DSPs work with clients all the time, and often somebody coming in telling them what to do or trying to correct them can come off offensive. So also remembering that. And then also being an educated professional can be intimidating to DSPs. So also remembering that. So our goal in this stage is really to start that relationship and rapport building. So get to know that staff, start building that trust with them, and then comfort. So we want to have natural conversations with them. We don't want forced conversations. And then safety. So we want them to feel like they can have open conversations with us, talk about anything that may be concerning. And then empathy. I think this is a really big one. And this is something that I talked about in a slide before, is what helped me with my burnout was being heard. So a lot of times DSPs want to be heard. They're working with that client day in and day out. So they know that client probably the best. So just being heard, they want to be heard, and also giving some understanding. So I think those are really important factors in that engaging process. So moving on to the next slide is the focusing process. So this is known as the what process. So this is when you're starting to look for a goal or an issue, and sometimes it's not clear and take work to get to this point. So sometimes it can take 10 minutes to get to this point, and sometimes it takes weeks. That can depend on the staff. So even the level of burnout and the level of burnout they reach. So a staff that is at a very high level of burnout and been there for years, it might take more time to build that trust or get them to actually focus on what they want to work on. So I think it's really important to show patience in this stage. And then the goals of this stage is exploring that target behavior. So we want to identify what that change is, and then clarifying that target behavior. So we don't want too many goals or issues. So making sure that you're narrowing down what behavior you really want to address. Exploring ambivalence. So this is when somebody maybe feels stuck between wanting change, but not wanting change. So for example, you can help them look at the pros and cons of a situation. So a DSP that has many hours, pick up so many hours, and they have a poor life balance. You can discuss the pros. So some of the pros could be they have more money, there's less financial stress, they can buy more things. However, then you look at the cons, and that can be being burnt out. You're spending less time with your family, you work, and your work becomes less enjoyable. So this is to help push them out of that stuck stage and move towards the change they want. So then next, you want to explore some of those barriers. So look at the things that are getting in the way of the goal. Developing discrepancy. So creating a gap. This is creating a gap in the difference between one current behavior and their desired different outcome or behavior. So a DSP's current behavior is a poor work-life balance. So they value their work, and they're very passionate about the clients that they work with. So you want to help them realize if they continue that poor work-life balance, the value of their work and passion won't actually align. So in this stage also, you don't want to be confrontational, but you want them to confront their desired goal in that present state that they are in. So the next stage is the evoking stage. So this is commonly known as the why process. So you want to start that client towards a particular goal that has been identified in the focusing process. So you want to remember that you want them to come up with that goal and you don't want to make that goal. So it's better if their goal for change is not yours. And then the purpose of this is so people can find their own internal motivations for change, and then you want to reinforce it and help build that overall motivation to change around that focused target behavior. So some of those the goals of this stage is to listen and reinforce change talk. So some of those things that we can do to listen and reinforce that change talk is ask evocative questions. So a lot of times in social worker, and when I did this in a lot of my sessions, is we would use a scale. So on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is not at all important and 10 is extremely important, where would you say you are? So then you're kind of giving them, you're trying to see where they're at and see what level of change they really want to do. You can also offer advice, but you don't want to impose it. And then also increasing or suggestive methods as well. So you can make a statement of concern. Your situation concerns me and here why, and then list those concerns in a non-judgmental manner. Another goal is to increase the amount and strength of change talk. So we want to encourage the aspects of that desire, the ability, the reason and need, and then get curious about that motivation. So when they're talking about that motivation, you want to show interest. So making sure that you're showing interest and engaging in that conversation. And then lastly, in developing that internal motivation, that can be as simple as giving somebody praise. So that's a very simple thing when they're talking about something, just with that motivation, try to praise them. And then lastly, the last stage is the planning process. And this is commonly known as the how process. So the planning process in motivational interviewing is actually optional, but I want to talk about the goals of motivational interviewing. So your main goals is you want to build that working relationship with that staff. You want to be able to identify that specific behavior. And then also you want to help staff build that motivation towards those target behaviors using those specific skills and strategies. And then lastly, working towards aligning that client and resolving that ambivalence and choosing change. So planning does encompass both developing a commitment to change and formulating a specific plan of action. So some of those things are goal setting, sorting options, forming plans, and building that support. So the goals of this plan is develop those skills. So you can help them develop some of that self-awareness, having a growth mindset or an open mindset, action planning. So you want, when they do identify that behavior or change that they really want, you want it to be SMART. So I'm sure you guys have heard of a SMART goal. So we want it to be specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, relevant, and time limited. And then also you want to remove some of those barriers. So get rid of some of the things that are in the way of their goal. So for example, a DSP that is struggling to work well with other staff and wants to change that, DSPs can start working on that communication and collaboration to build that trust within their team. And then lastly is exploring that outside support, letting them know that there are resources out there that may help, may be able to help them. And then on the next slide, I have some resources for motivational interviewing. So this is actually a link here for a 3-day conference for motivational interviewing at the University of Madison. And that is on August 9th through the 11th. And then here is some motivational interviewing online courses through Allison and their free courses. And then also here's a link to a motivational interviewing book. And this is actually the book that I learned from in graduate school. So these are some great resources to brush up on more of your motivational interviewing skills, and maybe even get certified, so you can put that on your resume that you are motivational interviewing certified. So, and then I think we're gonna move on to a break.
It's a break time. So we'll do about 5 minutes. So it's 11:03. Let's come back at like 11:10, just to round up. So I'll pop it in the chat too, for those of you that may or may not have heard. So yeah, we'll come back at 11:10. All right, everyone. It is officially 11:10. I did see in the comments, Alfonso had said that they feel like expectations are increasing, the quality of services are declining. When we become pencil pushers, staff are burnt out, but the caseloads can't keep up with staff turnover. Sounds like wishful thinking, hard to compete when Target is paying. I get it. I think that a lot of this is to kind of bring the conversation back to the table. Instead of just talking about self-care, yes, we do need to care for ourselves, remind ourselves to take a break, purposefully not take work home all of the time. I used to take my work home like every single night. And after grad school, I told myself I wasn't going to do that anymore because I was just like so crazily burnt out and just up to here in paperwork. And I honestly, like, I'm behind on paperwork, but I think we also have created a work culture where we really foster that balance and boundaries with our caseloads and working. And sometimes you're just not gonna be able to do it all. And just being honest with ourselves about it and having that honest conversation with our supervisors and with the people that we supervise of, you know, how can we better prioritize things? You know, what can wait till tomorrow? How can you care for yourself? Making sure that the people that are working with us and for us, you know, we all are in this field for a reason. I think we all care about the IDD population very much. Otherwise, we probably would be working at Target. So I think that's something to keep in mind too. I know this is not a, you know, fix all. I'm not sprinkling my glitter and fixing everything with fairy dust, but these are things that are definitely, you know, if you can't take away all of it, take away something today. We're talking about a lot of different ideas and throwing a lot of things out there. I do encourage you guys to also, you know, get on there, do some more research. If none of what we present today is something that you can implement personally, at least take care of yourselves. I know I really hate those workshops where it's like, give yourself a break and take a bubble bath, but sometimes you really just do need a break. And like I said before, like I was at a point where I realized that I needed to get out of this field for a minute and just genuinely take a break. I was a preschool teacher for a few months, probably like 6 or 7 months. And, you know, that's what I just needed. And I had to take a pay cut for that. And it kind of sucked, but I was able to get back into the field and really find my passion again. And I love what I do. So I think that's kind of the driving force for a lot of us is, yes, we're burnt out, but also, I totally took a break to be a daycare teacher. I love it, Susan. So yeah, I know that's probably not the answer that you wanted, but I do appreciate you sharing. And I know it is, some of it is wishful thinking. So, all right, let's get back into it, guys. So behavior skills training. This is another resource that we wanted to kind of focus on today. Ooh, I turned my heater on when Rachel was presenting and now I'm too hot. So behavior skills training is a 4-step evidence-based strategy used to teach others a new skill or behavior. A lot of behavior analysts are taught this skill, and it is an awesome evidence-based strategy. It's also talked a lot about in this wonderful book. Oh, you can't see it. Oh, can you kind of see it? There we go. The Supervisor's Guidebook, Evidence-Based Strategies for Promoting Work Quality and Enjoyment Among Human Service Staff. So it talks a lot about this in there. And then it also has a ton of other really great advice of being a supervisor to human service staff. So if anything, go out and buy this book, or at least go read it at the library or something, because it's a really great resource. So we will kind of get into this. So behavior skills training starts with instruction. It goes into modeling. Then you've got rehearsal and feedback. All right, if I could just get to the next slide. I don't know what, okay. So I've got a quick little fun clip from the Grinch here.
Fat boy should be finishing up any time now. Talk about a recluse. He only comes out once a year, and he never catches any flack for it. Probably lives up there to avoid the taxes. Merry Christmas! Oopsie. Forgot about the reindeer.
Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said,
If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. Oh, Max!
so he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and tied a big horn on top of his head.
All right. You're a reindeer. Here's your motivation. Your name is Rudolph. You're a freak with a red nose and nobody likes you. Then one day, Santa picks you and you save Christmas. Now forget that part. We'll improvise. Just keep it kind of loosey-goosey. You hate Christmas. You're gonna steal it. Saving Christmas was a lousy ending. Way too commercial. Action! Brilliant! You reject your own nose because it represents the glitter of commercialism. Why didn't I think of that? Cut, print, check the gate, moving on.
All right, so I love this clip for behavior skills training because the Grinch identifies a solution to implement by using Max to help him. So he's using Santa and the reindeer as his models for Max and instructs Max of what he will be doing. He gives him the opportunity to rehearse and he provides feedback to Max prior to their night out stealing Christmas. So it's not in the perfect order of behavior skills training, but it definitely is a little relatable there. Just a fun little clip. All right, so the first section of behavior skills training is the instruction section. So I really felt like Rachel's motivational interviewing portion was really good to kind of segue into behavior skills because during your instruction portion of BST, you're going to explain why you're training the staff on what you're training. And you can definitely use some of that motivational interviewing to help get the staff on board. You can make them part of what you're going to be instructing the staff. You know, when you're coming up with like behavior plans and things like that, you're not in the house all the time. And like Rachel said, the staff are there all the time and they know the ins and outs of, you know, what's going on with your client. So using their insight, kind of putting that in the behavior plan as much as you can. Sometimes some of it maybe we can't use, but referencing back to maybe some of what the staff are dealing with or some of their solutions that they have too, and using that in your why. You really want to create some buy-in in this section so that they understand why we're doing this. If you don't understand why we're doing it and there's no benefit to, you know, implementing a behavior plan or whatever you're going to train your staff to do, they're not going to implement it, let alone correctly, right? So with this section, we really want to be clear and concise. We want to go step by step, like a task analysis, and we want to meet staff where they're at. So if we need to spend more time on this instruction part with them and really dig down and kind of explain like, you know, down like nitty gritty of everything that we're going to do, then let's meet staff where they're at so that they really understand the instructions of what they're supposed to be doing. And this is also a time where they get to ask questions about what we're doing. Maybe we haven't really, they still don't understand why we're doing it. So that's kind of a time where we can make it more of a conversation too. and just sit down, and if they've got questions, we can kind of explain some of that stuff to them. And then we can also use this time to quiz them, because when we can take data, we can kind of see like where the staff are at. So if we can create some type of a quiz based on the instruction that we're giving our staff, and then we give them the quiz, we can see if they're really comprehending what we, discussed. In instruction, you can have a written form, and you can also do a verbal form. I recommend both just because it's, something in writing that they can refer back to, they can take notes on, but also you can use that time to really connect with your staff and build some more of that rapport with them and really let them know like you're there to support them. So this is kind of where we start building some confidence with staff when we're training them and creating some buy-in with our staff so that they're on board, they're feeling more confident about what they're doing, they're feeling more supported by us. And this is how we can create more of that supervisor support for our staff. And then of course I had to put a Game of Thrones little meme there. All right. This next section is modeling. So after we're instructing our staff, we're going to model for our staff what we're doing. So I don't know if any of you watched America's Next Top Model, but Tyra Banks would, like, I feel like every single episode do her smize thing. And I would always be like, but I don't know, that's just me being dorky. So that was kind of my example of modeling for someone what they're going to be doing. We want to practice the skill or the behavior for the staff being taught. So we can do this either via video. We can kind of like role play on a video. We can record ourselves interacting with the client in whichever way we want the staff to be interacting with the client and then show it to them later. Or we can do it like on the spot with the client and just show that we're able to do what we're expecting the staff to do. And that also sends the message to staff that they have that supervisor support, right? Because that's what we're really looking for when we're doing this, is building, that connection with our staff of, hey, I'm asking you to do this tough thing, but this is how you do it. I'll show you how to do it. I'm here for you to walk through on how to do this thing with you. So, I mean, we really want to model our behavior anytime. I love modeling in ABA because you can do it, when you walk into the house, not just during behavior skills training, but anytime, as a supervisor, when you're coming into a SILA or, whatever group home you work in, if you work in a group home, you can walk in and show staff how you engage with the people that you support, children, adults, whoever, and then kind of they see you interacting with them, they see you implementing the behavior plan, and they know that that's how they're supposed to do it. I think there's also a lot to be said of a supervisor that can do, the staff's job, because, they can help fill in as needed. They're a resource for the staff to go to when they need, extra support, extra advice, they need help, implementing things, or maybe they feel like, if my supervisor can't do it, then why am I going to do it, right? We don't want to just come across as pencil pushers. So with that being said, after we model, we're going to rehearse with the staff. If you're doing like a one-on-one training with staff, this is a time where you can role play and practice with them. So you can be the client and they can be the staff practicing, on you, and you can reverse as needed to show them, what you expect them, again, kind of that modeling part. But then you want to make sure that the staff is rehearsing for you and role playing so that you can help them along the way, and that you can really provide them a good, practicing before actually implementing it with the client so that they're doing it correctly. If you're training a group, just make sure that every single person in the group rehearses in front of you as the supervisor, so that that everyone is able to do the skill and you're not just expecting everyone to know how to do it. Or, oh, I saw 3 of you do it, so you all know how to do it. You want to make sure every single person rehearses with you. That way you can give every single person feedback, because I know I'm very uncoordinated and I need to like see it and do it myself when I'm learning something new. So I know not everyone's like that, but I know a lot of people are as well. So just making sure that everyone has that opportunity to practice. And then the last section is feedback. So feedback occurs during rehearsal. It's not just like a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. It's actually step 1, step 2 into 3, step 3 into 4, kind of a thing. So when we're giving feedback during rehearsal, we're on the spot. As soon as someone does something that maybe they're not supposed to do, we want to step in and say, I like how you're putting in the effort, but we want to make sure that we're praising them immediately, right? Okay, let's try it again. And we want to, so we're immediate, we're giving strength-based feedback. So we're providing some reinforcement, but we're also saying like, hey, let's make sure we're doing X, Y, and Z. We want to make sure everything is descriptive. So don't just say, good job. We want to say, you're doing great at, I don't know, patting the client on the back. Not that that's something that you're going to do, or I don't know, but you just want to make sure that you're being very descriptive so that they know exactly what they're doing right, exactly what they need to change. And then you want to continue to practice with them until they feel really comfortable, time allowing. We want to give instruction for improvement and not what's wrong. So we're not just going to point out like, oh, you did that wrong, you got to do this instead. We're going to say, I love how you're doing this. Just make sure that you do this. You don't want to just make them feel like they're doing everything wrong and they're bad at what they do and like cut down their confidence. We want to build their confidence. We want to build their self-esteem. We want them to know that we're going to be supportive and sympathetic and helpful. We don't want them to be afraid to come to us for extra help. We want them to ask questions and just make it a really supportive environment for them. So I think I have another clip, but we're kind of low on time, so I'm going to skip it and move on to teamwork. So another aspect of burnout is teamwork. If you're working with a team that is negative and they don't like each other for whatever reason, and they're just like saying mean comments to each other, or one person does all of the work and no one else does anything else, you're going to have a lot of struggles. You're going to have more burnout. We really want to build clear lines of communication among our teams. So, nothing is worse than walking in and feeling like you're doing everything on your own or not doing it the way other people like it. People giving you the evil eye or talking behind your back. We just want to ensure that staff have a way to communicate effectively and appropriately across all shifts. Many agencies use like their app to communicate quickly across the agency. I've come upon many cases where like home is frustrated with day program, or day program is frustrated with home, or maybe they're frustrated with school and vice versa. And a lot of that is because there's just little communication. And when we feel more connected to, those in our team, because, the home team isn't the whole team, right? Like client Joe has not only a team at home, but a team at work, but we all have to work together so that there's consistency, there's communication. Joe's getting the same programming across settings so that everyone's on the same page, because if someone's doing something really cool at home, but they're not doing it at day program, maybe you're going to see behaviors here versus there. So just to increase that teamwork, that communication, that consistency, we just really want to work together and try to build those barriers or build those bridges, is what I'm saying. We can also arrange to meet with other settings to increase communication. We just have to get kind of creative in these situations. Consistency training is also very helpful for staff to build teamwork. If one shift does something differently, then we're going to see issues on other shifts and vice versa. We can also encourage our staff to participate in trainings or after work activities together. Teamwork doesn't just involve work, right? Like our office, like I said before, we just had a fun basketball game with another agency. I kind of clipped them out of that picture there, but this is most of our office. I couldn't go because my baby was sick. But it seemed like it was a lot of fun. It ended up on the news, which was crazy. Rachel worked her butt off. She was our all-star player, it sounds like. So go, Rachel. But just like getting creative, doing fun things together, trying to just build that camaraderie, and, respect for each other. Nothing's worse than like walking in and hearing staff talk crap about each other while they're working together and then in front of other clients. That doesn't make for a very good environment for anybody, which is what we'll talk about next. Work atmosphere. So if the work atmosphere is dirty, outdated, uncomfortable, daunting, people don't want to work there, you can improve, make it a safe space of trust by, some of the stuff Rachel was talking about with her motivational interviewing, just building that rapport with your staff, letting them know that you are a safe place to go to if they need help with something, trying not to be judgmental. Something I was also thinking of was limiting gossip by providing consequences to those who are doing so, which includes everyone, not just direct care staff. A lot of work atmospheres or work environments are affected top down and vice versa. So just making sure that everyone in the agency has, the same values, and kind of reinforcing those values. I definitely love decorating for the holidays, making it warm and cozy. You can ask for donations of furniture or funds for furniture and home decor, to improve physical aspects of your work atmosphere. Come up with a mission statement and include your staff in coming up with that mission statement for your agency. That way it's not just, managers or supervisors saying this is our mission statement and we live by it. It's everyone in the agency helps to come up with that mission statement and our values. And then reinforce that. So whenever you catch someone doing something awesome, make a shout out. This is something that our agency just started. We have a newsletter that goes around, ICPN is all over the state. So we're really trying to work together, and kind of bridge all of our offices a little bit more and, make it more positive, make shout outs, get to know each other a little bit better. We want to also promote a good work-life balance by showing empathy to our staff when they have a sick kid at home or need to take care of, and offer any extra help you may be able to give. You don't have to go and babysit their kid for them so that they can work, but, just be like, hey, like, if you need anything, like, I'm here. Just saying that sometimes is all somebody needs to know, that you appreciate them and you are there for them. I used to bake cookies for my staff just randomly, or if they did put in extra effort and picked up an extra shift. Send birthday cards and thank you notes. Just create more of a comforting place for everybody where they don't feel like they're there to work and that's it. And I do have one more clip. I'm just going to explain it though, instead of playing it, if that's okay. So this clip was Klaus from Netflix. I don't know if anyone's seen that. It's a fairly newer movie, and it's easily become my favorite Christmas movie. So Jesper is the main character in it. He is a mailman. Yes, Susan. And he's forced into this town that's super drab. Everyone in the town like hates each other and no one sends mail. And in order for him to leave this town, his dad is forcing him to go and meet this crazy quota of delivering mail. And no one sends mail because no one likes each other in the town. So he ends up coming up with this brilliant idea to have all of these kids send letters to this woodsman that makes toys in the woods, and then they deliver them together. Well, because of this, he also tricks the kids into being good as well, and not just asking for toys. They have to be good to get toys. So then all the kids start doing awesome things for their neighbors and their friends and their families. And then everyone in the town loves each other. And then because everyone loves each other, they create this whole new beautiful town. They decorate for the holidays. It ends up being an amazing town. And one of the characters is a teacher, and she ends up turning her schoolhouse from a fish market into an actual school for the children to go to, so they can learn to write letters. So it's just a really cool, like, I don't know. I thought that it would be a really great example of a work atmosphere that goes from drab to amazing. And then he ends up wanting to stay in the town because everyone is just wonderful. So just a quick, fun, lesson for life there. I highly encourage you to watch this movie when you go home tonight if you have not seen it. Oops, sorry, guys. And then something else that I thought was really fun, I've seen this on social media. I don't know if anyone else has seen it, but what a fun work environment. How cool are her, peers working with her, the other staff members and her management for posting this on their Facebook page. So this is Charlene. She's a Walmart employee and she poses with products for the store's local Facebook page. Charlene is amazing, and I agree. So I just thought this was a really cool way for a workplace to get creative and kind of put in that extra fun effort and not just make it a boring day at Walmart checking people out. All right, progress monitoring. So in applied behavior analysis, once you go through the whole process of, training and all of that, we want to go back and collect more data and see if we made any progress, right? So we can check in with staff to see if they feel that they've made any progress or changes to their goals that Rachel was kind of talking about building with our staff. And then we can ask them about how they feel about any changes that we've made to the agency or their work environment. And then we can redistribute that MBI to compare scores prior to the changes that we've made. So we're going to look at what their scores were in the beginning. We're going to redistribute the MBI, and then we're going to look at the scores and say, has it helped at all with the staff's burnout? Are they feeling better about where they work? You can also look at, absenteeism, some of those symptoms of burnout. You can look at, tardiness, you can look at turnover, things like that. So if you haven't made any, progress, if people are still feeling super burnt out, they haven't met any of their goals or made any, changes to meet their goals, if you're still getting absenteeism, if people are still quitting, this is just a time to regroup and figure out what your next steps are. How can we continue to help our staff? How can we continue to make, positive changes for our staff so that they want to stay and work at our agency? This is also a time where, maybe you need to go to upper management or HR and have a talk with them. How can we make our agency a better place for our, employees to work? And I know our supervisor has had some of those conversations. She's come to us for, extra, advice of what we would like from our workplace. And I think that it's been some really great positive changes that we've seen as well. But yeah, it's just, our staff need us to be advocates for them sometimes. So just making sure that that's something that we're working towards. All right. Oh boy. Okay. So we have this quiz here. If you guys have a cell phone around you, and you can scan this QR code, so you'll use your camera and then you just click the link. It's just a really fun little quiz that we thought we would distribute. Come on, guys, let's see that participation. All right, if you're unable to scan, you can just put your answers in the chat box as well. Yep, it looks like most of you got it. So Charlene, who works at Walmart, poses with not only cabbage, but she poses with tires and stuffed animals as well as other things. So the correct answer is all of the above. Oh, there we go. It is showing. Awesome, guys. Whoops. What is happening? Okay, trying to get to the next question. Okay, so the next question is, in motivational interviewing, what process is known as the high process? Invoking, planning, engaging, or focusing. And it looks like 83% of you got the correct answer, engaging. Okay, which phase of BST could you quiz your trainee or staff? I don't know why rehearsal is blue. That is not correct. I might have put the wrong answer as the correct answer. The correct answer is instruction. We want to train, or we want to quiz them during instruction so that we can make sure that they understand everything that we're training them on. Sorry, guys. I don't know why. I must have messed up there. Oh, maybe it was just blue because most people were putting in rehearsal then. Okay. Thank you, Kimberly. The correct answer is instruction. All right. I'm not sure how to exit this. Uh-oh. For some reason, I am stuck in the screen. So the next slide is just our questions slide. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the Q&A. And then just like Danielle has put in the chat, as a reminder, give her 14 days to get continuing education out to everyone. If you don't receive yours, reach out to her after the 14-day period at ddAILEY@hope.us. If you are a BCBA or BCABA, send an email with your certification number to receive your evaluation and in turn receive your CEs. All right, well, thank you guys.
Thank you, Tiffany and Rachel.